I'm pleased that we have some special guests with us today, members of Al Hidayah Mosque, and like Imam Kasim. I'd like to give him a chance to welcome his members who are with us here today.
Thank you. Welcome everyone joining us for this wonderful event. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm so honored to meet all of you, and thank you, Catherine Sherry, for including me in this important event. We, Al Hidayah Islamic community, are proud of being active American citizens, members of this great nation, and participants in shaping its policies. The Islamic Center I represent is one of the oldest Islamic centers in the DFW Metroplex. It was established in 1998. Our community right now is around 400 people. Although we are a minority, we understand the important role we play in our existence here. It's not quantity and numbers that matter, but rather the quality and impact we leave as a community. And I always remind my dear community that the good impact we hope to accomplish will only be achieved through partnership and openness with others, like what the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, did when he migrated into the city of Al-Madinah in Arabian Peninsula. My dear brothers and sisters, at this defining moment and important time, as we are close to presidential and other major elections, it's imperative for us, the people of divine laws and legislations, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic, to have a positive and supportive position establishing the principle of freedom and democracy. As we are talking about elections, I'm gonna share with you a verse from the Quran that clarifies the most two important qualification and requirements for choosing a leader, whether it's a ruler, governor, manager, president, or any other person holding public responsibilities. This verse in chapter number 28, verse number 26, إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. The meaning of that verse: you can't do better than employ a man who is strong and trustworthy. And the man here in this verse refers to Prophet Musa, peace and blessing be upon him. And you could go to that chapter, chapter 28 in the Quran, and you will know the story behind this verse. Hence, my dear brothers and sisters, the two important qualities we must check when we elect are the power or potential and the trustworthiness or honesty. This is the second one. So if the one who is elected to carry that responsibility fulfills both requirements, he or she are qualified. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who helped plan this meeting, and we look forward to future events. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Imam Kasim. We're pleased to have you with us today. I'm going to back up just a bit. I was supposed to begin with the title of this program, Every Voice, Every Vote. This is a program by the Religious Action Center, which is a Reform Judaism organization that works for social justice issues, and Every Voice, Every Vote is their program. Beth Shalom is participating. Next, I would like to introduce Rabbi David Siegel, who is the RAC Texas leader, and he'll talk a little bit about this program in RAC. Rabbi Siegel.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And salam alaikum. An honor to follow my brother, Imam, and so honored by your words and your prayers and your sharing your teaching. Thank you. So I'm gonna bump Sherry's screen sharing for the moment, Kathy's screen sharing for the moment, and share just a few slides of what I want to show you and talk about tonight. Oops, did that work?
Yes.
Okay, just bumped my screen in a funny way, but we're good. Okay, so I am the Texas organizer of a national organization of the Reform Movement. We are Reform Jewish Movement. We're based in Washington, but I live in Houston, and I work with our congregations throughout Texas. And if you look at the next slide, I like to point out, these are not to scale, but just to give you a sense of where we now have state projects of the Religious Action Center. Texas is one of now 8 places where we have organizers and local leaders working together to build teams and develop leaders and work on justice issues at the local and state level. So you see Texas there making its mark among the others, and not surprisingly, this correlates pretty well with where most Jews tend to live in this country, or concentrations of us are anyway. Just to give you a picture of that. Since we heard some from the Quran, fitting to also talk about where Jewish tradition talks about the imperative of voting. You could do a whole other course on this, but just a few, two tastes. One from the prophet Jeremiah speaking to the people in exile and saying to them, seek out the peace of the city where I cause you to roam. Wherever you are, work for the well-being of that place. We're invested in this place. I think that's one of the things that's calling us to think about. And then from the Talmud in Brachot, we read from Rabbi Yitzhak, a ruler is not to be appointed unless the community is first consulted. Seems pretty obvious to us, I think, as Americans who are used to democracy, but that was maybe not, that was more of a radical idea in its time, 2,000 years ago. But one we have to hold on to, and we have to take that responsibility and own it. So there's a textual tradition. I also like to talk about what I think of as a kind of Jewish story imperative, Jewish American story. Not all of us came through Ellis Island, granted, but what this picture represents for many of us, and I'll speak for my grandparents who came here as children, they passed down to my mother and to me this sense that we have had so much opportunity here, this country has given us so much, and our job is to be responsible citizens who give back and lead our communities and participate, contribute, all of those ways that we can. And voting is one important way to do that. The Every Voice, Every Vote campaign that Kathy mentioned, it has 4 parts that we're working on in Texas. You all are doing amazing work on the 100% voting piece and getting people to understand all the ins and outs. Texas is one of the hardest states to vote in. You should know that if you don't already know that. And it's really imperative that you have these kind of conversations and teach people. And the rules are changing every day. The governor changed some rules about drop-off locations just last week. So we're working on all of these things. If you know people who are interested in advocacy to county election officials, combating voter suppression, or if you're interested in either being a poll worker or helping to recruit poll workers, you can talk to Kathy or talk to Cantor Sherry, or talk to me. We can help connect you or the people you know with those possibilities. And because I'm so excited about the Tarrant County work that y'all are doing, it's really amazing. We've had meetings with your election administrator, Hader Garcia. Kathy has been instrumental in organizing that. He's been very responsive, and I think he's really doing his best in a difficult situation. And one thing I just wanted to mention is that it turns out that, how many of you are in, well, I can't, let's see, I can see you if I do this. Raise your hand if you are in Representative Stephanie Click's Texas House District. It's North Richland Hills and surrounding areas. It's not, I think Colleyville is sort of just outside it, so not many people on this group. Okay. Do you know who your Texas House rep is? That's the other question I should have. Well, something to keep in mind. District 91, she is Tarrant County, it's within Tarrant County. It's North Richland Hills, which is not far from you, right? I don't know exactly the layout, but she is the chair of the House Elections Committee of the Texas House, a hugely important committee for addressing voting rights and voting reform in the next legislative session. Now, the House could change who's on each committee by next session, but she's a vital one at this moment. So part of that is a reminder that Tarrant County and wherever you are is an important place in terms of power in the state to make change, because everyone has a representative and a senator, and we often need your ability to mobilize people wherever you are to make those voices heard on important lawmakers. And I'll just close by saying there are a couple other ways to get involved. We have this national pledge to vote, but you all have your own version of that, right, Kathy? They can't keep track now. Did you do it? I can't even remember.
Yes, we did a pledge
yeah.
to
So
vote.
Kathy's going to talk about that. So wait for her. Do her version of that. Don't do mine. You have a better version locally, so that's good. One thing I did want to point out: if you want to know more about what we're doing statewide, you can go visit us at www.rac.org/Texas, and there is. Kathy's going to do a lot of detail for you. If you want even more, on Thursday night, we're doing a session with the Texas Civil Rights Project at 7 o'clock. That's an hour-long session called Know Your Rights as a Texas Voter. It's kind of, there's a trivia piece and then explanation and training. Everything you need to know to go to the polls and be seen as a voter. Oh, my dessert arrived. Okay, I'm going to hand it back over to Kathy. Thank you all.
All right. So I need to share my screen again. Okay. And now we're at the end of the presentation. There we go. All right, everybody. I apologize. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this with you being able to hear me. So these are the topics we're going to cover tonight: voting by mail, tracking your mail-in vote, which you can do online, early voting, where and when to vote, and making your vote count. So these three websites are the websites for all the voter information you will need. For Tarrant County is the top one, Denton County is the middle one, and Dallas County is the bottom one. Most of you are from Tarrant County. You might want to jot this down: elections.tarrantcounty.com. There's a lot of useful information you can get there, including you can track your mail-in vote and look up places where you can go to vote. So this is a slide about checking to see if you're registered to vote, but yesterday was the last day to vote, so really there's no point to that. If you do just have some question and want to look, you can go to the Secretary of State office, and it's very easy to look yourself up with your name, county of residence, and your birth date. Okay, so let's get to voting. First thing we're going to talk about is mail-in voting. People who are eligible are anybody who is over 65, anybody who is disabled. The state determined that that being afraid of getting COVID is not a disability. However, they left a lot of wiggle room for what is a disability. It's really, you figure that out for yourself. There's a box that you check off, and it's your decision whether you think you qualify for that. The next reason you can get a mail-in vote is if you're going to be out of the county where you were registered to vote at the time of the election. And finally, if you expect to be in jail during the election, you can ask for a mail-in vote, but I don't believe that will apply to anybody here. So if you want to request a mail-in vote, I'm using Tarrant County as our example, but you can do the same thing for any of the counties. So you go to the Tarrant County Elections website, you scroll down to the elections menu, click on early voter information, click on voting by mail, print out the application, fill it out and mail it in. And here's one of the things you're going to want to do. Take a photo of the signature on your application. Use your cell phone, snap a photo of your signature. This is really an important thing. And it can be received up to 11 days before the election, but the sooner the better you get it in. So turning your mail-in ballot in, the first way is to mail it in. So you make your ballot selections, you take your ballot, you place it, you will have gotten 2 envelopes. You place your ballot inside the smaller envelope, which is a gray envelope, seal that up. It's important to use both envelopes, then place it inside the larger yellow envelope, seal that one, and then sign the outer edge of the outer envelope of the ballot. The place where you sign is in the upper left-hand corner. Take out that photo you took of your signature and make sure you sign your ballot in the same way as you signed your application. There will be 2 people who will look at each ballot and compare the signature with the ballot application signature. So you want to be sure you're signing the same way. My husband wasn't sure if he signed his application James Collins Freisinger or James C. Freisinger. Don't make that mistake. Be sure you know. And then if you're mailing it in, you just might put 2 stamps on. It's real, the ballots are real close to the weight allowance. They're actually supposed to deliver them even if they don't have any stamps on, but for 55 cents, why have a question? So then you can track your mail-in ballot. You can do this in Tarrant County by going to the Tarrant County Elections website. That's the website I listed at the start. It's not terribly obvious how you do it, but it's not hard either. Go to the website, click on Where Do I Vote? Then click on Find My Record. Type in your name and your birth date, and up will pop something in blue that says View Ballot by Mail Information. Click on that, and it's going to tell you the date that your ballot was mailed to you, the date your ballot was received by the elections office, and when it was approved. So this approved means that they compared the 2 signatures and they found that they matched. So there's a second way to turn in your ballot. You can drop it off at the elections office. Each county in Texas has a drop-off spot. The one in Tarrant County is 2700 Premier Street in Fort Worth. It's in northeast Fort Worth. It's about 3 miles north of downtown, a little bit east of I-35. It's kind of a strange location. It's an industrial area, but they make it, once you find your way there, they make it very easy for you to do this. They've set up a couple of tents. You don't even have to get out of your car. You drive through, you hand your ID, which is a driver's license or a passport or whatever you're using as your ID, to them. And then you sign and print your name and you are done. It's quite easy to do. These are the locations. If you live in Dallas County, it's 1520 Round Table Drive. If you live in Denton County, it's 701 Kimberly Drive. You cannot deliver a ballot for someone else. You can't bring your spouses or your friends. You have to deliver it yourself. And they are collecting them now. Anytime is 8 to 5, and then one on the final week of early voting, they'll be open later hours. They'll be open till 7. Okay, some people are having doubts about whether they want to turn in their mail-in ballot. They want to send in their mail-in ballot, or would they rather vote in person? So if you think you have changed your mind and you would like to vote in person, but you requested a mail-in ballot, you can do this. You bring your ballot to any early voting polling place, or you can also do it on election day. Tell the poll worker that you want to vote in person. It'll take a little bit of time. They have to call the voting office and make sure you are, they have to have a discussion with the voting office. But then once that's taken care of, you can go ahead and vote. It's not a, what's the word? It's an actual vote. It's not, what word am I trying to think of where they, anyway, it's a
provisional.
It's not provisional. It's an actual vote. And you vote just like you would ordinarily. You need your ID, and then you go ahead and vote on the machine. Because of COVID, they have extended the amount of time for early voting. It begins next week, October 13th. It's 3 weeks this year. Normally it would be only 2, so we get an extra week to go to early voting. If you live in any of the counties in the area, Tarrant, Dallas, Denton, or Collin County, you can vote at any polling place in your county. The reason this is important, maybe you are at work and you want to just pop in on the way home from work, or another good reason is you can vote in a location where there isn't a lot of traffic. So for instance, our assigned location is very busy and there are always long lines, but then there's another location near us that has very low traffic. So that's a better place, a better choice for us to go. You can go to your county elections website, and they will have a list of all the polling places. And I actually have a printed out list next to me if, when we're done with this, if anybody wants to ask about polling places in your zip code, I can look them up for you. Be sure.
Kathy?
Yes?
I've been raising my hand, but no response. So I just want to know if other counties such as Dallas, if you're able to track your mail-in ballot that you've sent in.
So I don't know. That's county by county. I know that in Austin, Travis County you can, in Tarrant County you can. I have a friend who lives in Collin County who hasn't received her ballot yet, and they cannot do it there. So I really don't know if Dallas and Denton can. You'd have to just speak to them. And by the way, don't be afraid to call your county elections office. I've probably called Tarrant County elections office a dozen times in the last month and a half, and they're always very nice. And that's what they're there for, is to answer questions.
I've called them, but they're really recently they're very hard to get hold of.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. If you poke around on the website, you may be able to find out. Otherwise, I would just suggest reach them.
Yeah. By the way, I did see, Catherine, your hand up, but we're going to save questions for the end. Well, I wanted to let Kathy get through because maybe sometimes the question will be answered as she goes on, and then we'll have definitely time for Q&A. So I'll ask you guys to unmute yourselves for that when she's finished.
Okay, yeah, we are going to have a question period at the end. So early voting begins on Tuesday. The first week, it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's Tuesday through Saturday the first week. Next week, the following week, so they skipped the first Sunday, then it opens again on Monday, and it's open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then that weekend, they're open on the Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on that Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we're going to come back to it. That's a good time to vote. And then the last week, Monday to the day before Halloween, it's open late in the evening, long hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
That's for Tarrant County.
Yes, yes, that's for Tarrant County. If you want to, Phil, you probably know more about all this than I do, so you may help me answer questions at the end. If you want to avoid lines, don't go on the first day. All the eager beavers are out that day. And especially don't go the last couple days. Everybody who's postponed going will show up then. It's just human nature. That's what people do. So you want to look for a time in the middle. And the weekends tend to be low turnout days, especially on the Sunday. They're open one Sunday. It's October 25th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think people tend not to know that they're open on Sunday, so it's a good time to vote if you want not to see a lot of lines. And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I was told that you can call the elections office on the day you're planning to go and ask, is it very busy at the place you're planning to go to? They may.
The election officials have to call in about every 3 hours and tell how long the line is.
Right. So you can do this. They may be swamped with calls. They may not be pleased to be getting a bunch of calls, but I was told they will do this if you want to call and ask. Election day is November 3rd, I'm sure you know. In Tarrant County and Collin County, you can vote at any polling place in the county. In Dallas and Denton, you have to vote at the precinct that you are assigned to. You must bring a valid photo ID. This is very important. And then I'm going to say if your ID is rejected for some reason, you can ask to vote provisionally. And I had this happen to me once. The very first time they started asking for photo ID, I was registered as Kathy Freisinger, and my driver's license had my middle name. And the person who was looking, even though first and last name were the same and my address was the same, and there was a photo and it was clearly me, he still would not allow me to vote. So I voted provisionally. And I would also say, really, they're not supposed to be that picky. You might, if someone questions your ID, you might ask to speak to the person who's in charge at the polling place, and they may say, oh, it's okay. Or, but anyway, you can always ask to vote provisionally. So this is in Tarrant County. I don't know what kind of machines are being used in other counties, but in Tarrant County, unless you voted during the primary or the primary runoff, the machine you're going to be using is different from the ones we've used in the past. It doesn't have that circular thing that you dial. I actually think it's easier to use, and the nice thing about it is there's a paper trail in addition to electronic voting. Read the directions carefully. Ask a poll worker if you don't understand and you need help. And this is something I want everybody to pay attention to. When you get to the end of voting, when you've gone through, you've made all your choices, you get to a page that lets you review your vote. Please do this. It's quite easy to make a mistake. You might skip one race, or you may have marked something incorrectly. And this is the time when you want to go back and fix something if you've made an error. After you've printed it out, it's really too late. So after you've gone through, made all your selections, and you've checked it over and completed voting on, then you are going to, then a paper ballot will be printed out. It will have all of your selections on it. It's not a souvenir. Don't walk off with it. You are not finished voting until you've taken that paper ballot and placed it into another machine. So getting back to valid forms of photo ID, Texas driver's license, a military ID with photo, a US passport with photo, a Texas personal identification certificate. There are several options that are mainly for people who don't have driver's licenses. I imagine most people do. please try and bring a photo ID on which your name exactly matches the way you are registered to vote. I told you about the issue I ran into. If it doesn't, just go ahead and bring what you have, but it's easy. You're avoiding problems if your name exactly matches how you're registered to vote. Finally, bring your own mask, bring your own hand sanitizer, and then I want to suggest, just as a way to get you in and out quickly, is decide beforehand who you're going to vote for and know who it is. So look up a ballot, a sample ballot online, or get the League of Women sample ballot and go through and make your choices. And then when you get to the polling place, you can do it all more quickly. You're not allowed to use your cell phone in any way when you're in the polling place. So you can't phone a friend and ask who should I vote for, and you can't look up, oh, but I was just going to go to this this site where they've got all the recommendations. So don't use your phone, but you can write out your list for yourself and bring that along, and it'll make it easier on you if you do that. And then one last tip, don't wear any clothing that has any political names or bring any political buttons along. They'll ask you to turn your t-shirt inside out if you're wearing a t-shirt with a political name on it. And now is the time for questions and answers.
I have a suggestion, Kathy.
Yes, Stuart.
It's Phil.
Phil had
Phil,
a
I'm sorry, I
suggestion.
saw Stuart raising his hand. Go ahead.
The way that you sign your name in the polling place is with a little stylus. It has a rubber tip on the end. If you have one at home, I suggest you bring it along and use yours. They'll give you one there. When you're done with it, you're supposed to put it through a little machine that sanitizes it. But if you want to be really careful, bring one from home that you can use. You use it both to sign your name and to press on the screen to make your selections.
Yes.
Good suggestion, thank you.
Does that
Which-
only go for the voting machine, not the people who bring in a mail-in ballot and have to sign a register?
They'll give you a pen, so you can bring your own pen.
Bring your own pen, absolutely. Okay.
Which Stuart is first, Kathy?
You know what, Kathy, if you can not stop sharing your screen, that way I can see everybody on there, and then I can just call on people to go.
Okay.
So people aren't talking, you know.
All right, let me find stop share.
Okay.
If I hit the X, am I gonna lose everything? Oh, here's stop share. All right, there we go.
All right, there we go. Okay, so if you would like to add, okay, I think Stuart Snow had his hand up first, and then Stuart. We'll do the two Stuarts back to back. So Stuart Snow and then Stuart Yaris.
Great name, Stuart, by the way.
I agree.
My question is, I don't doubt the research you put in, and I appreciate it. I'm just amazed that weekends are the suggested time to go for less traffic, because that's counterintuitive. People work during the week. I would think they'd be going to early voting on Saturday and then the one Sunday. So I'm just a little perplexed by that.
Well, I may be wrong, but my experience the last time I worked was that the week.
Frozen again.
You lost your sound, but on Sundays, people don't usually show up at the polls.
Well, I'm really referring more to Saturday than, because there's only one Sunday that's available for early voting anyway, and 3
Yeah,
Saturdays.
it's particularly the Sunday that is slow.
Okay, thank you. Well put together, and appreciate all the committee's hard work under Rabbi Siegel's tutelage, and I'll mute myself and allow the other steward to talk.
Okay, thanks very much for the presentation. I'd like to point out, it's sort of obvious, I suspect, but if you if you take your mail-in ballot to the place, to 2700 Premier Street, leave your ballot inside the 2 envelopes. Don't expect
Yes.
them to run your ballot through the machine directly. It still has to go through all the same processes as a regular mail-in ballot. You just get to save 50 cents or whatever, $1.
Yeah, yes, it has to be inside the small envelope, then inside the big envelope, and then signed. Everything has to be exactly the same, except you don't have to put a stamp on.
And since that location is also an early voting place, if you go before early voting starts to drop off your mail-in ballot, it might be less crowded.
Okay, we have Susan Garsley, you're next, and then Brenda.
Hi, Kathy. Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Susan.
I just tried tracking my ballot because I went through the procedure you all just talked about. I went over to the voting site. Easy way to get to it, by the way, is taking 121 and go north on Sylvania. And then there's a really great sign that tells you where it is. But I tried using it just a moment ago, and it only allowed you if you were military to use it.
No, it does. I've done it repeatedly.
Could you send us the correct link again? Because I couldn't find it. And
Yes,
I
I'll
was
send-
unable to use it.
I can send, yeah, I can send
If you
everybody
send it
who's
to Stuart
here.
or Barry, they'll
I can-
share it with
well,
us.
Susan, I can send it instructions on how to track your vote. Just let me
Excellent.
know.
Thank
I'll
you.
send
And
it
then
out to you.
I have one more comment, is that in the past 2 days, I've received information about more troublesome aspects of what could happen at the polls. And in fact, our Rabbi Charlie posted a little bit about it. And I did receive something that I sent to you, Kathy, from Georgetown Law. And then most recently, I got some information through my daughter who worked at the White House in the last administration about more details about voter suppression when you're actually voting. And, you know, if it's something that you want to post, feel free to do that.
I actually, I want this to be just strictly how-tos, and
I'm not familiar with the information, so I'm not bringing it up.
yeah, yes.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, Brenda, go ahead.
The one thing is in Mansfield, everybody was talking about using 2 stamps. In Mansfield, we
Yeah.
have to use 2 stamps. They have an
Yeah.
extra long ballot this time.
Yeah, that's
And,
why I just
it's more
recommended
than-
that.
It's
Go
like
ahead,
3
sorry, I
pages.
interrupted.
It's like 3 pages instead of 2. So please, if you're in Mansfield, put 2 stamps on the envelope.
Thank you, Brenda. Nabil?
Thank you.
Nabil and then Fran.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be with you all. And Kathy, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Appreciate it. 2 quick questions. One's easy. Will you be able to share that presentation with the group so we can pass it around for those?
Nabil, at the end, can you give me your email and I'll send it to you?
All right. You're very kind. Thank you. And then the second question is a little technical. Do you know if in Texas the law allows for votes to be canvassed before Election Day, or are all mail-in ballots only counted for the first time on Election Day?
So I asked about ballots that are dropped off, the mail-in ballots that are dropped off, they don't begin to count them until Election Day. So I didn't ask about ones that go through the postal service, but I would assume it would be the same thing, that they don't count them until Election Day.
Gotcha. Good to know. Thank you.
And I want to also, we were remiss to not introduce Nabil at the beginning. He is our kind of our liaison to Al Hadaya, and you know, our sort of contact also with the imam. And so he was really responsible for helping to publicize this event at the mosque. So again, we appreciate so much your partnership and working with you, both Imam and Nabil, on many different projects. So thank you. Okay, so Fran and then Catherine.
Fran?
You have to unmute yourself, Fran.
I have two questions, but the first one is for Kathy. The second one is just really quick for Phil. The first one is just, Kathy, you were mentioning something about places that have low traffic.
Yes.
Did you mention a specific place, or is there a way to find out, or do you just call?
So I really don't know how you find out. I happen to know of a place near me, but it's a long way from you. I would just ask people you know who live near you if there's a lot of traffic or very little at various places near your site.
I don't think you live very far from me.
Well, then I can tell you one that you can go to that has very low traffic.
Okay.
I'll tell you offline when we're done.
All right. Okay, and the second one is kind of a silly question, but is this a stylus on the top of my pen?
I think so. Bill, does that looks, it's got a rubber thing on the top that you press with?
Here, I'll try it over there. Oops. Yeah, the little rubber thing up there.
A rubber thing on the end. If you can use it on your cell phone, it'll work there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all. I don't want to be stupid, but I just wanted to know.
No, fair question. Thanks, Fran. Okay, Catherine.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there is something called a capsaicin type stylus. But anyway, just a little note on slide 15, the number for Dallas County needs to be corrected. It's got too many digits.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you know what it is?
Thank you for the presentation. I don't know. I'd have to look at the slide again.
Okay, I will correct it for anybody who wants me to send it out. I will correct it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you give this presentation anywhere else.
This is the last time I'm giving it.
Well, if you email it to anybody, let them know the number, whatever. I'm assuming you have the number. If you want me to look,
I will. Apologize for making a mistake.
No, I mean, we all do, but.
Busy polling places on election or during the early election are the waterworks, the illegal women voters, the sub courthouses. If you go anyplace else, they shouldn't be as densely populated, I'd say, with voters.
Thank you, Phil. Very helpful.
You had your hand up, Max?
Oops, sorry. Where's my phone?
You have to unmute yourself, Max. Max, you have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Okay. Your space bar.
I was looking as to where to do it. I do have a question. Since both my driver's license and my passport pictures were taken, I've had surgery and there's minor facial differences. Is that going to be an issue?
No.
It should not. They're not there to be obstacles. The poll workers, even though I had that bad experience that one time, they're really not looking to exclude people. So I don't think you'll have a problem.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Max. I see Imam Kasim has his hand up.
I wish to stay with you till the end, but unfortunately I have Isha prayer within 5 minutes, so I have to leave. Thank you for everyone. I appreciate your efforts, and I hope I'm gonna meet with you again. Thank you.
You will.
Thank you for being here today.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Kathy, there's another thing you didn't mention. If anybody's handicapped and you can't get out of your car, you can have them bring the ballot out to you.
Right.
It's a pain doing it, and you'll still have to kind of open the car door and swing your feet out to vote, but they can bring it out to you. You have to send somebody in to either request it, or there should be a little bell outside the polling place. You can press the bell and somebody should come out and ask what's going on.
Interesting.
They can't ask you why you're disabled or why you want to do it. They have to bring it out to you.
All right, let me add, thank you, Phil. It is very time consuming for the poll workers. You're going to take 2 people away from the job they're normally doing for 10 minutes. So don't do it unless you really need to.
Kathy, I have a couple of questions, Kathy. Not every, when I went to check online about, early voting, at least the way that I was reading it, maybe I'm wrong, there were some places that you could vote for on that day and other places that were early voting places. But, you couldn't vote like where, I was looking at some places that you could only vote on the day of voting, but not when you were early voting. So is that, I think I understood that correctly. So just to make sure. Yeah.
All the early polling places are open the whole 2 or 3 weeks. There isn't any one that's restricted, as far as I know.
The early polling places, however it lists the early polling places, then those are going to be open, right? But then there are certain polling places that are not listed under early polling. They're listed only under day of, of polling. So
there are 2 places, the Tarrant County Junior College sometimes only do it like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of one week or the other week, and they share it between the different campuses. Those are the only ones I know of that don't follow the whole schedule that everybody else has. There's like 56 polling places in Tarrant County that are open the whole 3 weeks.
You may be right, Sherry. I know what you were saying. You're asking if there are some that are only open on election day and not for early voting. Possibly, you should go early voting.
Yeah, no, we're going to, and I know exactly where we're going. I just wanted to make that distinction. Also, one question that that my husband and I had, in the past, we were able to just, says vote this party, and then just the one punch. You can't do that.
No, Texas legislature got rid of straight ticket voting.
Voting? Okay, very good.
They might go back to it, but not this year.
And the times that you listed for early voting, and then are those the same for all early voting locations? Those are just, okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Kathy, since you asked, I looked up the number. I have it. It's on slide 15. It ends with the 4 digits, 6389 for Dallas County.
Okay, thank you. I'll correct that. I'm going to be sending that PowerPoint to Nabil, so it'll be correct on there, Nabil.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Kathy, thanks